Let's welcome our speaker for this evening from the Three Legacies group, Jesse M. Jesse too. Jesse music.
Hey, Jesse, put this down.
No, it's all good. I'll stand. Jesse, alcoholic.
Hi, Jesse.
Start with some honesty, right? I got hit with this like a freight train just a couple minutes ago. So I am a little nervous. My heart is pounding out of my chest right now. I actually do like a little bit of preparation, if you would like to say. But I guess we'll just let the Spirit talk and have Him work through me, and hopefully I can hit something that can help somebody out today. My sobriety date is 4/1/2023, so I have 11 months. I find it funny because it's April Fool's Day, which I'm pretty much already a joke. So I feel like it's very fitting. This isn't my first time in sobriety. Before this 11 months that I had a year and change. And my life has been changed completely different since this program. I will say that, I went back out because I stopped working this program, and I balked at a couple of these steps. So I went back out for a couple months, and I paid the price, right? So here we are today. I guess we'll start with why I feel like I'm an alcoholic. I have an obsession of the mind, right? Where when I don't have something that I want, I don't even have to want it, right? I didn't even really like drinking, to be honest. But I have this obsession of the mind where when something's on my mind, it can control me, right? It takes over me. And I won't stop thinking about it until I have it in my body. And then secondly, I have this phenomenon of craving, right? Where as soon as I put that thing into my body, it's a wrap. There's no stopping. And that's what I feel makes me identify as an alcoholic. And under that, I have a spiritual malady where when I'm not connected to my higher power, life can trample me, right? I don't even need a reason to drink or drug. The obsession of the mind and the phenomenon of craving can tell that, right? So I can fall deep into it without no reason to drink. But when I do have a reason to drink, it can get really dangerous. And so yeah, I have the obsession of the mind. I have the body craving, and thank you. And I also have the spiritual malady. I don't usually really like to dig too deep into the war story. I used to. Don't get me wrong. The first time I spoke at this meeting was when I had my year, and I started it off with my date of birth, And I went on this whole journey to describe my whole life, and it went really well. But when I come to a meeting, I don't really want to hear about the war story anymore, I do, but I don't at the same time. I come to a meeting for the solution, right? But I also want to know that you're an alcoholic. So that's why I described why I feel like I'm an alcoholic first. And I'll try not to dig into the war story too much. I might get a little bit here and there because I got an hour. But yeah, so I think where I'll start at is where my recovery started. So back in 2019, I won't get into the specifics of what I was doing for the sake of the traditions, but let's just say that I was 130 pounds soaking wet. I was pale white. I had bags under my eyes. I couldn't eat or sleep for weeks. And I was dying, right? And I've been in NA and AA my whole life. You know, I was 13 years old in a program doing 6 months, and they would have meetings come in. And so I've been in the programs, right? Like, but it used to be more of like an entertainment, right? Like I'm in this program, this Russian guy's coming in telling his story. It was like entertainment, right? Like I didn't really relate, even though I was starting to do some of the things that these people would talk about when they would come in. But so I've like been in NA and AA my whole life, but it never really stuck to me that I belonged here. So 2019, like I said, I was very skinny, couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. One of the guys that I was living with, he's seen what I was going through, and he's like, bro, like you need to go to a meeting. And I'm like, I don't really want to, you know. But anyway, I knew I needed it at the same time, right? Because like I was at a point where I was like so weak that like I didn't even want to walk up and down the stairs because like it hurt my legs. You know what I mean? So like I was like, all right, whatever, I'll go. So I go to a meeting with him, and I think it was actually the following day. So I'm talking about like 2 days sober. My buddy's like, oh, there's a conference going on down the street, right? We should go to it. So we go to Nekipa, and it was a dope experience. Like I didn't even really know what was going on. Like I like walked into this thing blind, and all I knew is there was like marathon meetings all day. Like I didn't even know about like the main meetings and stuff like that, or the dances that were going on. And my buddy kind of like, he bring me there, and then he like dropped me off in a crowd of people, and then he like went and did his own thing. So like, I'm like still blind. I don't even know what's going on. And somebody was like, oh, there's a dance going on. Like, let's go into the main ballroom. So I like go into the main ballroom, and they like go into the crowd. There's this huge ballroom, and like the dance is going on in that back left corner. And I'm like, over in the back right corner, like in the dark, right? Like, and I'm like watching these people have fun. And I'm like, all right, like, and mind you, for like the past like 7 years of my using and abusing, I became so isolated to the world that I didn't even know how to be a human. So, like I would literally go to work, come home, be isolated in my room. I was renting a room at the time. And I would just be in my room, like, you know, institutionalized. I wouldn't even leave my room to use the bathroom at times. That's how bad it got. But I was so isolated off from the world, I didn't even know how to be a human. And I'm like watching these people have fun. And I'm like, okay. And like all the meetings that I've been to before were like old timer meetings. So like, as much as I like related, I never felt like I fit in. So I'm seeing all these young people have fun, and I'm like, all right, well, like maybe I can go over there and dance, right? So I'd like start chugging over a little bit, like dancing a little jig, you know what I'm saying? And I was full of fear, right? So like I get a couple feet, and I like turn back around and go back to the corner, and I just continue to observe everybody having fun, and I'm like, all right, like I'm gonna come back here tomorrow and see if I can do this. If there's another dance, I'm gonna dance this time, you know? So I came back the next day, and they had this dance called a silent disco, where you walk into this room and all you hear is people stepping, right? Because it's like this, they call it a silent disco because they have the music in headphones. So everybody in there is dancing, has headphones on. And there's 2 different stations. They got the red station and the blue station. So everybody who's listening to the red station is listening to the same stuff. Whoever got the blue is listening to that. So, and this is like the perfect thing for somebody who needs to break out of their shell, right? God was working some ways for me, right? And I didn't even know it at the time. But it's a big part of my recovery. So I go into this dance, and I put these headphones on, and I'm dancing with people, right? I'm like being an actual human. And it planted the seed for AA for me. Because like I said, you know, like I would go to meetings, or I've been in meetings before and I related, but I like never felt like I fit in. So it planted the seed for me, you know? And So for about 4 months, I was going to meetings, and like I even connected with a bunch of people, and they added me to the group me chats and all this stuff, and I never really used them, but I would just go to meetings every day. And I heard in some of these meetings that meeting makers make it. So that's what I did. I just kept showing up. I wasn't working at the time. I had enough time to show up to do 2 or 3 meetings a day, and I was doing it. But I didn't take the suggestions, right? I was just sitting there listening. Right? I didn't get a sponsor. I didn't do the steps. I was just showing up, And then probably about 3 months in to that sobriety, I started dating this girl. Well, not really dating, but fooling around with this girl that I was going to these meetings with. She would pick me up because I had no car. And so I was going to these meetings with this girl, and we would talk, doing the deed, what men do with women, right? That's what I was basically doing with this girl. And I got in a situation where she was basically with somebody, and he threatened to fight me, and now I'm I don't even want to show up to these meetings no more because I don't want to have this drama in my life. And I turned into the alcoholic who thought that he can do it on his own, which was not a good idea, but I became that alcoholic who thought he could do it by himself. So I stopped going to these meetings, and now it's mid 2019 to 2020, COVID happened. I was just smoking weed for a little bit, wasn't drinking. I really didn't want to drink or drug. I just wanted to smoke my weed because I was content with that. And that's pretty much how I was for a little while. And more towards the end of 2020, actually it was more about August, so mid 2020, I got put in this situation where I wasn't working. I was working a little here and there with my landlord. And so I didn't really have a job. My apartment that I was living in was getting shut down. So I panic, right? I'm I need to get this money, I need to find out where I'm gonna live and all these things. And it was a manipulation in my mind, right? I'm thinking, I'm gonna go and sell a bunch of pills, right? And I didn't really want to get into the drug side of it, but it is part of my story. But I'll speak briefly on it. I basically just bought a bunch of pills, telling myself I wasn't gonna take any of them, and I drove 2 hours to Connecticut to get them, and on the drive back, by the time I got home, I was 6 pills deep, and I went from I'm not going to try any of these to I have to try every different one of them because I had a variety. And it's crazy how our mind manipulates us, because I would tell myself I'm going to try all these different pills because I don't want to kill nobody. I might kill myself taking these shits. That didn't even cross my mind, but that tells you how insane I am, right? So, just to speak briefly on that, I think it was the next weekend, I took 30 pills in 24 hours, and I bit off a piece of my tongue. And, I should be dead from that, and this isn't the first time I've, come close. But, yeah, I bit off a piece of my tongue. I couldn't eat or drink anything because my mouth was so raw from suckling on my cheeks, and I got to that point of desperation again. That gift of desperation they talk about. So I luckily I knew where to go, right? So I got my ass up and I went to a meeting. And I went to that meeting and I raised my hand and I said I need help, and I was shaking the whole time. Shaking, scared, because I'm at a point where it's I'm gonna die, right? And mind you, I still have 200 plus pills in my house. And so So yeah, I got that gift of desperation, and started going to the meetings again. Every day I would raise my hand and ask for help, and nobody was really answering, right? Like, which was a blessing in disguise because it led me to my sponsor. But I will say this: the people at that meeting did show me the love that I needed for me to keep showing up. But again, just like that first time I came around, like, I didn't get to the solution to the problem that I had. So this time around, it's like, I need this solution. So I ended up one night, and mind you, I have all these pills in my house. Like, I can pretty much pop off whenever I want. But I got on my knees one night and I surrendered, and I said, God, like, I need somebody to show me the way, because if I don't, I'm gonna die. And so the next day, I showed up to one of the meetings that I usually show up at, and I didn't even see this guy in the meeting. Afterwards, I get out of the meeting and I'm standing there talking to some dude, and I see this guy that I knew from the 4-month stretch of sobriety that I had. And as soon as I seen him, my eyes lit up because I knew he had time, and I know he's taking guys through the steps. So I run over to him and I'm like, bro, like, I got 2 weeks, like, I need a sponsor, like, I want to go through the steps. Or I didn't tell him how long I had, actually. He was like, how long do you have? And I was like, I got 2 weeks, man. And he was like, I only work with people who have 90 days. And I was like, I was pissed about that. Like, bro, I'm out here dying. And like, how are you going to tell me no? Like, I almost got a resentment and went back out. You know, but thankfully God was working his ways, right? And so that same night, I think I went to 3 meetings that day. The second meeting is where I seen that guy, and then the third meeting was at EGYP, and before they made the move over to Warwick. So I pulled up to this place, and I'm like not even into the parking spot yet. I'm literally creeping into this parking spot. My car's rolling, and I see these 2 people like start walking up to my car, and I'm like at this point in time, I'm like, I want the help, but I'm still like isolated, and I don't know how to be that human still. So like, I was going to meetings, and I'd be in the meeting 2 minutes before it started, and then as soon as it stopped, I'm in my car, flying out of there, because I don't want to talk to you people, you know. So this guy starts walking up to my vehicle, and I'm like, oh, here you go, all right. And this guy's like, I'm like sitting in my car, and he's looking down at me, standing at my window, and I'm like, I felt like he was like trying to be like dominant towards me, like, you know, like that ego was like, who is this guy, right? So I like get out of the car, and now I'm like standing like eye to eye with him, and long story short, that dude ended up being my sponsor. You know, he gave me his number, said if I wanted to go through it, that he'll take me through it. So I think we met up probably a week or so later, and we sat in his truck for about 2 hours, maybe even a little bit more than that. And he just kept telling me a bunch of like step 1 situations, trying to see if I identify, right? And like, I've heard stories that have been very similar, but they've been like also very different at the same time. This dude's story was like, it was like he was saying my story. And like the spirit was moving. And now mind you too, I got those 200 plus pills in my house, right? And my cousin in Florida, he has a little bit of time. He's been trying to tell me to flush those pills for a couple weeks now, because he knew I was dying, and I would if I didn't. But you know, I ain't got no job. I need to make this money, even though I ain't selling shit, right? So a little after 2 hours of talking in the truck with this guy, the spirit moved, and I said, you know what? There's something I need to do, man. And he's like, what's that? And I'm like, bro, I gotta go home and flush these pills. And he's like, if you need help, man, we'll go do it. So I was like, all right. So we went to my house, and we flushed 200 plus pills. And in a way, it hurt, because I'm like trying to hold on to what I'm pouring into this toilet. But at the same time, it was like a sense of relief, because I was surrendering for real, you know? And my life started to change at that moment. from there, I started to do the step work, and it was tough. You know, I got to my 4th step probably, I don't know, maybe 6 months in, 4 months in, something like that, and it took me like 2-3 months to do my 4th step, and like I almost went back out while I was doing it, and I feel like the reason for that was just because, like, to me, the solution to 4 is in 5, 6, and 7. You know, like admitting it to somebody else. It's like you're taking that weight off of your shoulders and giving it to somebody else, and they don't got nothing to do with it except for give it away too. You know, so it's like the more I sat in that 4th step, the longer I sat in the misery of bringing up all of the shit that I like submerged in myself for so long, and so yeah, I sat on that 4th step for a couple months and almost even took me out. But I started moving forward with it. You know, I had some things on that inventory that I thought that nobody else ever did, right? I'm like, I almost didn't even want to tell my sponsor it. I wrote it down, but I almost skipped over it when I was reading my 5th step to him. But I told him that, and he didn't even budge. I was even watching him while I was telling him it, and he like didn't even budge, you know, and like that was just such a sense of relief, because it's like, and he also told me, he's like, dude, other people have done that too, you know, like, and I'm like, phew, like I'm not so different, you know. But yeah, you know, I came into this program and I had all this weight on my shoulders. I had those chains tying me down to the way of life, you know, all those resentments, the fears, the dishonesty, the self-seeking action. I had all of that, you know. And I wrote it all down in my 4th step. I gave it to my sponsor, you know, 6 and 7. We were entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. We humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. What I noticed this time coming around is that those 2 steps isn't just entirely giving it away to God, but it's also like to help you change the behaviors, right? We write all this inventory to realize the bad behaviors that put us into the situations we were in, you know, and then we ask God to remove them, but we also have to be into action of changing those behaviors. And I didn't do that right away. I continued some of the same behaviors. I gave a lot of it away for sure, but some of those other behaviors still kind of stuck. You know, I'm 32 years old, and I never had nobody show me how to live life without having a mom and dad. And I like learned the wrong way for 30 years. So like undoing that 30 years takes a lot, right? And like I've only learned these steps within the past 2 years. So like trying to break those habits, it's hard. It's definitely tough, you know? To this day, I still have situations where, you know, I was talking about it in the last meeting, right? Like, I 10-step stuff, like, every weekend, and it's the same stuff that I've 10-stepped the last weekend, right? Despite the spiritual experiences that I'm having by confessing these things. But we're not perfect, right? Like, so I just keep practicing this program, you know, and then I made my amends list, where I feel like one of the places that I went wrong in my last time going through the step work is it's funny, right? Because I'm like always been an entertainer, but like there's a fine line between entertainer and ego. And I was in this unique situation where my sponsor was sponsoring another guy, and we were like neck and neck the whole way through. When he was on his 9th step, I was on my 9th step, and like we would talk about how many we had left, and it like became like a race for me, and I started to half-ass do my amends. And in the big books, it talks about doing to the best of your ability, right? Like, and I did them half-assed, you know, and for that I was like not able to like spiritually grow. My sponsor told me once that like, you know, like say I have 50 amends that I have to make, right? Like I'm technically negative 50 right? Like I have to break even before I can have any kind of spiritual growth. And that's despite the fact that I have a relationship with my higher power. Because I do. I pray and I meditate every day. But there's some things that I owe, right? And that's like righting my wrongs. So like I wasn't able to really spiritually grow despite the fact that I thought I was, And I got to a point where like I started to like take credit for all of the things that God was like giving to me in my life. I went on a vacation. I think I had like a year or so, and I went on my first vacation ever, right? I go up to the mountains of New Hampshire. I'm like hiking up this freaking mountain in like some all white Air Forces and like a fitted cap. And there's like ice all on this mountain, and I'm like, oh, I'm reaching new heights, right? Like, and this is all me though. Like I was taking credit for all of these things. And I was real delusional for that, I had my year sobriety here. I was at the podium for my year. I had a $400 suit on. I had a freaking $500 Gucci belt on. Not the one that I'm wearing or anything. I hide it nowadays, but let's just say the ego is still there a little bit. But I started taking credit for all of these things that were happening in my life, And, there was a point in time where I stopped working my program, like we talked about that 4-step and how we take all of this weight off of our shoulders, right? And like the reason we do this 10th step continuously is because anytime we have something new happen, it becomes weight on your shoulders again. This is my interpretation of it. But, and if I don't continuously do that inventory and release that weight that I start to gain back onto my shoulders, then I get tied down to life again, And despite the fact that I balked at my 9, I started to balk at 10, 11, and 12, I was not showing up to my business meetings here. I wasn't praying and meditating every day. I wasn't taking my inventory. And it's like, when I came into this program, I had to unlearn those 32 years, the 30 years that I've lived, right? And then I learned this new way of life. And then it's like, when I stopped working this program, it's like I went backwards on all of my steps, and it got me back to that step 1, where I was powerless, and I had these obsessions of the mind, and I had this experience where I practiced this program, and it took me to my amends with my sister, right? And I seen my sisters for the first time in 10 years, and I celebrated Christmas with them for the first time in 10 years, and she was dealing with addiction and alcoholism herself. So I go there, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna like preach the program to her and attract her to it, like this is what my life is now. And so I go there, and I'm like telling her the whole story, like, all right, like this is what the deal is, And I remember the day before I left, she was like walking upstairs. She was like, oh, I'm gonna go upstairs and smoke. And I was sitting on the couch, sitting forward. I remember it like vivid. And I went to go sit back, and I'm like, hit it for me. And like by this time, I'm not even practicing my program. And as soon as I said that and my back hit the couch, I'm like, damn, I wish I could smoke with her. Because like me and her never really got along, and the only time we ever did was while we were smoking weed. And my mind was manipulating me again. Like, okay, I can bond with my sister more if I smoke with her. When in reality, I haven't had a freaking Christmas with her in 10 years. Like, there's no closer you can get, right? And then I started obsessing about smoking weed the whole night. And, that next day I hopped in my car and I drove to Rhode Island, and I went straight to the dispensary. And from there, I ended up smoking weed for a couple months, And like, some people think, oh, it's just weed, right? But like for me, somebody who was practicing the program I was practicing, like, it's not just weed. Because I'm powerless over everything, I went from smoking a joint here and there to like now I'm smoking a half ounce of money with money I don't even have. And by the time that 3 months was done, I was smoking so much that it wasn't doing nothing for me. So then I started looking for something heavier. Fortunately, I wasn't able to find any. And that led me back to the program. And I came back again, and I started working these steps again. I went back to the beginning. I did some more inventory, at least from the stuff that happened from when I went out, or a little bit before then, until where I was at then. Because I feel like when I did my first 4-step, I did it, the searching and fearless moral inventory. So like I feel like I did my best when it came to that inventory. So I did a second inventory. I went through the steps again, and I feel like the 11 months that I have now is like stronger than the year plus that I had, because I've seen things so much differently. Some of the stuff that I missed the first time around, like that triumphant arch, right? That archway to freedom. When I first came back around, my sponsor he gave me the crash course for the first 3, and then we did 4 solid. But he basically broke down that archway, and that foundation is knowing that I'm a human and I'm powerless, right? Which again, like I started to take credit for things that God was giving me when I first went back out, but I came back around, and the way he painted that picture to me is that like I always have to remind myself that I'm human, because as soon as I think that it's me, like I'm fucking doomed, So I remind myself that I'm human and I'm powerless, and then that cornerstone is that faith, having that faith in something higher than myself. We admit that we're powerless, right? But we need some kind of power to get through day-to-day life, because it should be tough, life be lifing sometimes. So I realize I'm powerless. I figure out where I get that power from, and then I can start moving forward. And I start to build this archway of freedom, where, like I told you, I have this weight on my shoulder when I come into this program, and I learn how to become free by giving it away and continuously doing this inventory, because that's the whole goal here, right? Is to become free from this alcoholism that we have, and these chains that hold us down from our spiritual growth and connecting to our higher power. So I've seen a lot of things differently this time around, and don't get me wrong, I'm still human. Like I said, man, I do 10-step stuff every weekend. I feel like I'm a weekend warrior when it comes to like the sins I commit. Like I used to be a weekend warrior when it came to drug use. Now I'm just a weekend warrior with the inventory that I have to do, which I guess is an upgrade. But I'm still human though, right? And it's cool how that revolves, right? Because it brings me back to that bottom where I'm a human and I'm powerless. And this program is a forever thing, man. I was doomed when I stopped working my program. I might have been just smoking weed, but I could have ended up dying going back out there. And I have to treat it like I'm going to die going back out if I do again. Because if I don't, man, I'm doomed. So I try to continue to practice this program, I have a solid knowledge of the steps this time around. So I feel like I'm on the next part of the triangle, which is the unity. And technically service as well. I'm a part of Risky Pop, which is the Rhode Island Service Committee of Young People in AA. It's a big key of my recovery this time around, because I need to stay in this service. if I don't continue to give away what was given to me for free, then I'm fucked. This light has to work through us. We can't just hold on to it and harness it for ourselves, because it doesn't work that way. You know, one way to show how grateful you are for the things that you've been given is by to give it back. So I'm a part of this committee, and I'm the events chair, which is pretty new for me. I've always been a part of events, but I've never been the person who puts them together, and it's a new experience. It's very humbling. You know, I talked about the prom night that we're going to be doing in April. I'm putting this event together, and it's been kind of stressful a little bit, but like I've been reaching out to the people that are in my circle, and it's been an experience so far, and I can't wait to see what comes to it. You know, I have a sponsee. That's been a journey itself. I try to keep myself into the service stuff. Got about 10 more minutes left. As much as I still deal with some of the same things every week, you know, when it comes to my inventory, like I have tunnel vision, right? And I see the freedom at the end of this tunnel, right? Like I could sit here and tell you like I feel 80% free, but like I still got some work to do. But working this program has got me to where I see that end of that tunnel, right? My life used to be unmanageable without the drugs and alcohol, right? I would have these goals and these aspirations in my life that I never seen achievable because I didn't know how to get to them, you know? And I see things achievable today, you know? And that's thankful to the program. And, you know, I might not be completely free, but for the most part, life doesn't trample me no more, you know? I used to let life walk all over me. I'd be angry about everything, pointing the finger. Oh, you did this, that, and the other thing. You know, I don't do that today. Today, I look inward. Even with these situations that I go through every weekend, I look at myself, you know? And that's a huge blessing. Because when it comes to the beautiful thing about the inventory, right, is that, like, I learned to look inwards, right? And, like, practicing that new habit, right, to a point where, like, I've realized whenever somebody else is doing something, like, that doesn't help my experience out, you know? That person can be doing this, that, and the other, but what is that going to do for my future, right? Nothing. So I can't be focusing on the things that these other people are doing. I can only focus on what I can change, you know? It comes down to the serenity prayer. Accept the things that I cannot change, right? Like, that's all of the stuff that other people are doing. Have the courage to change the things that I can. That's the stuff that I got going on. So I look inward, and I try to do my best when it comes to all of that stuff. You know, like I said, I'm not completely free, but life doesn't trample me anymore. I used to be the guy who, when I was playing Call of Duty, if I got headshot, I'd be like, what? I will not only break the controller, but I will break the TV as well because I threw the controller at the TV. And that doesn't happen today. I have a little bit more of centeredness when it comes to my anger. And that's just a gift of the program, you know? And you know, I've been having the gift of being able to travel lately, you know? I was the guy who, when I was drinking and drugging, my friends would ask me to go out to dinner, and like I'd be like, I don't got money for that. I just got money for my bottle. You know what I mean? You know, back in a month ago or so, I went out to San Diego for a convention, and I had the time of my life. You know, I was able to see some beautiful scenery. You know. I had a spiritual experience on a beach with cliffs next to it, waves crashing, meditating. You know, we went to Santa Monica Pier. I have a bunch of my friends from the East Coast with me on the West Coast, and man, I got to see the sunset on San Diego Pier, and it was so beautiful. Like I cried, dude. It was so beautiful, and like I wouldn't have that if it wasn't for AA. Like I literally went there for an AA convention, so like these things wouldn't be happening in my life if it wasn't for AA. You know what I mean? I have a lot of shit going on right now, right? So I did my tax return real early, so I got it early, right? I go to San Diego. I spend my entire tax return on vacation, right? And I had a blast. I don't even regret not 1 cent of it. The day I come back, I'm driving home from work and my engine seizes up, right? Oil like didn't even show on, but the thing was bone dry. And you know, it was tough, but like God provides, right? And so like now I got this guy that I live with. He's like bringing me, and this guy is going out of his way to bring me to work in the morning. He doesn't have to be at work till 9 o'clock. He's waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning to take me to work for 6 o'clock, going way out of his way just to make sure that I get to work. Like, that is a blessing. I was the dude people didn't trust with $10. You know? This guy is going out of his way to not only bring me to work, but like, there's some weekends where like, he'll let me take his vehicle to drive to work on a Saturday so I can get extra money so I can get my vehicle fixed faster. Like, what? I've had friends give me the keys to their apartments while working this program, telling me to babysit their cats. Like, people weren't answering the phone for me because they knew I was going to ask them for money. You know, my sisters and family and friends, like, they didn't trust me. They didn't like me after all the shit that I did to them. And this program has completely changed that, you know? And, you know, this whole situation with the vehicle is tough, but like I'm good. Like, God provides, you know? My job is giving me a $500 loan so that I can also get my truck fixed faster. Like, things are happening in my life that wouldn't be happening if I wasn't sober. And that's a beautiful thing, man. But like I said, man, life be still lifing. Things are tough, but as long as we can turn our will and care over to God as we understand Him, like, we'll be all right, you know? And I have a relationship with God today, you know? I practice an 11 step. It's not as solid this past week, but I still talk to Him every day. And I think that's why He continues to do the things that He does for me, because He knows my heart. And yeah, man, like, there ain't really much else to say, but like, if you're new, like, my suggestion with you would not be to just continue to show up. Get a sponsor, do the steps, right? I told you about that 4 months that I came in here with no sponsor. I went right back out and I almost died for that shit. So if you identify with the mind obsession and the physical allergy, and then also letting life trample you because you have this spiritual malady, this disconnection from your higher power, try this program out, because it works if you work it. And I'm available if somebody needs. You know, today I wasn't expecting to come up here, but the guy said he wasn't going to show up because of some traffic. And I said to Joe, I said, listen, man, I'm around. And here I am today. So it's an honor. Grateful to be sober. Grateful to be of service. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. I appreciate it. All right. Where are we at?